Hope Channel, changing lives.
Hello, lovely viewers. Good evening and welcome back to the Consulting Room, which comes off every Monday from 8 to 9 p.m. live from the studios of Hope Channel Ghana. On the Consulting Room, we bring you all the latest updates on health and information on health. I'm Dr. Nai Kanko Enin, and tonight we're talking about anthrax. At the beginning of this month, we heard of an outbreak of anthrax, and for most people, I believe you were saying, we just can't catch a break. We're just jumping from one disease to another. But we need to know how to protect ourselves. And when we know how to protect ourselves, it will help us to prevent these diseases. So tonight, we're going to get all the knowledge we need to get on anthrax. And with me in the studio to help us with this, we have Dr. Kwabnana Ahia, and he's a doctor of veterinary medicine. Dr. Ahia, you're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
We'll get into the conversation shortly, but we'll go for a quick commercial break, and when we get back, we'll get into the conversation. Please stay tuned.
I am an angel of hope.
I'm an angel of hope.
Ubrenio, so do Sika a Baba Hope Channel. No one so yasane, yet me the mere some a man she saw in Choromiana, or Daroma, Farmain, Nafa Sika Fasubi, na also Fabra, Yanko Kanyamsem, and ya cra a wonkwa. Star 928 star 34 star 104 hash. And I say 0249 193083. Hope Channel, yes, it's Sabrabo. Hope Channel, yeah, Gia Cranom.
Welcome back from the commercial break. As I said earlier, we're talking about anthrax today, and we have with us Dr. Ahia, who's going to give us all the information we need. But before we get into the conversation, Father's Day is almost here with us, and Hope Channel Ghana, in partnership with the East Ghana Conference and the SDA Hospital Koforidua, presents a Father's Day special. On the 18th of June from 9 a.m., all men within the Koforidua municipality are invited to a free prostate cancer screening at the SDA Hospital in Koforidua. So to register for this screening, you can send your details to 0246 872083. 0246 872083. And together we can make a difference and ensure no man has to suffer from prostate cancer. Hope Channel, changing lives. Dr. Ahia, you're welcome again.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so before we get into anthrax proper, what does a typical day in your life look like, a veterinary doctor?
Okay, so I'll talk about veterinary doctors in general.
Yeah.
It's a very diverse practice.
Okay.
Let me put it that way.
Okay.
I know there are a lot of specialists in human medicine as well, but in veterinary medicine, your line of work will depend on where you find yourself.
Okay.
So we have the typical small animal practice, where we have most of the hospitals here in Accra.
Okay.
that you have a veterinary doctor in a hospital
Okay.
most of the times, taking care of mostly dogs and cats.
Mm.
And then you have those on the field where they deal with farm animals.
Okay.
So in the north, you have veterinary officers, and their work is mostly field work.
Okay.
Unlike consulting room
Yeah.
like we have here, they are
Yeah.
almost always on the field,
Okay.
treating cases, reporting cases, and it helps. So they feed the information to public health and all that, and that. And then we have those who are in the wildlife, in the zoo, and other places, and other maybe drug production companies and other things. So there are diverse, you know. Mine is, I'm not currently practicing in a hospital or on the field because I'm reading another program in that's MPhil pharmacology.
Okay.
Yeah. However, I consult for some people when they call me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Noted.
Yeah.
So in my research for anthrax, I read that it's a zoonotic disease.
Yes.
When I hear zoo, I think of animals.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing it has something to do with animals.
Exactly.
Okay. So you can just inform us what's a zoonotic disease.
Yeah. So zoonotic diseases are basically those diseases that are transferred from animals to human beings.
Okay.
Or vice versa.
Okay.
So we are living in an ecology or an ecological niche with other organisms or animals. And a saying goes that a healthy animal is a healthy community. And by an extension, healthy people. Yeah. So if animals are healthy, are treated well, are vaccinated, then these diseases cannot jump, or the causative organisms, being it bacterial, virus, or fungal, or even parasites and all that, will not jump from the animals to human beings. Yeah. So basically, that is the zoonotic disease, and public health experts are into that. And there's also the concept of One Health, which actually brings together all the players, the medical doctors, public health experts, environmental health. So it's a triad: animals, humans, environment.
Okay.
So wherever we can block the transmission of diseases from this, then we are fighting zoonotic diseases. So basically, that's what zoonotic disease is.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So from my knowledge, anthrax is not a new disease at all.
No.
So where is it coming from? All of a sudden, we have an outbreak
In Ghana. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's not a new disease at all. Actually, some historians date it back to the Exodus time, and they say it may be the 5th plague, which actually broke out in Egypt, and a lot of animals died.
I see.
And right after the 5th plague, the 6th one came, which came with boils.
Yeah.
And so it is believed by historians and some scientists that after the animals got anthrax and died, the handlers of those animals actually got those boils, which when we go into the discussion, you realize that it's part of the clinical science of cutaneous anthrax, actually. So it's something that has been there. And back in Greece, ancient Greece, they have it when they were transporting animals and trading with them and all that. Bringing it back to Ghana, it's endemic. It's something that is endemic in Ghana. But I will commend them veterinary services and the public health expert, because vaccination has been going on. Yeah. And because it's endemic and the bacteria is ubiquitous, it can stay in the soil for decades, for a very long time. So as and when the environmental conditions favor the sporulation of because it forms spores. So as and when the weather conditions favors that sporulation, we can have an outbreak. Or when there's immune compromise of the animals because of poor nutrition and things like that, it can resurface. So it's something that has been in Ghana.
Okay. So at the moment, how many cases have been reported?
Yeah, so these cases we are talking about actually is the Ghana Health Service and the Veterinary Service Directorate that can really talk about the number of cases as we speak. But I can only speak on the press release. The first one, I think, on 2nd June. that talks about a group of people. The release talks about 100 people eating a dead carcass of a cow, and they recorded 11 cases or so with one death. Actually, I can't speak to what is happening now because I'm not there.
Yeah.
And then they have the, let me say, constitutional mandate to release. Because of all this media panic information, we just have to be careful. So I can speak to that for now, but I can't say for sure how many cases and all that.
Okay. So the outbreak was in one of the northern regions, right?
Exactly.
I usually hear of it in the northern region. Why is that the case?
Okay, so the disease actually infects animals, basically ruminants. Yeah. So ruminants are those animals that chew the cud.
Okay.
So the cattle, the sheep, the goats. It can affect other animals, but it's very rare. And also pigs. So it's rare in carnivores like dogs and cats and things like that.
Okay.
And the northern region, known for rearing a lot of animals. So a lot of cattle are in the northern region. Sheep and goats are there. So we can attribute it to that. Also, the weather conditions plays a role in it. So that is why we mostly hear it from there. Actually, there have been a lot of research to that effect, studying the weather patterns and the outbreak of anthrax. And it's been found, they did this study from 2005 to 2016. So they were doing a 12-year study to find out whether they can pin the outbreaks to some weather patterns. They realized that from February through to April and June, most of the outbreaks are there. And it's mostly in the northern region. And it can be because they rear a lot of animals there and also the weather.
Okay. So you mentioned spores earlier. Is that bacterial? Is that viral, fungal, parasitic? What kind of spores are those?
So they are bacterial spores.
So
actually, is the disease, the causative organism is Bacillus anthracis. So it's a bacilli bacteria, and it forms spores. So we have the vegetative form and the sporulated form. So the vegetative form can be in the soil for a long time, and then when it forms spores, that's when it can infect. So these spores can stand harsh weather conditions, like I said, and that is why it can stay in the soil for a very long time.
So how do we get it? How is it transmitted?
So that will take us to the forms of the disease. So we can have the cutaneous anthrax, that's the skin. We can have the inhalational, because it's spores, you can inhale it. So the inhalational anthrax, and then we can have the gastrointestinal anthrax. The most common one is the cutaneous anthrax. So the cutaneous one occurs when you are exposed to the bacteria in open wounds. So you have a cat and you handle a carcass or hide of an animal that died from anthrax. Then you are going to have the cutaneous one through the wounds. And it forms, it's like insect bite. So you see something on the skin, black spot like insect bites, and around it there will be a little swelling around that point. And then when you start seeing that, and it spreads. All right. So that is the cutaneous form. And so from the time you get exposed and the time you start showing that sign, it's about between 2 to 5 days. You can start seeing that. Well, that one is not too fatal. The case fatality rate is just about 5 to 20%. But the gastrointestinal form is a bit dangerous. That is when you ingest. So you can get it on your skin, it can form, even though the skin one can get into the blood, you can get sepsis from that, but it's not too common as compared to the gastrointestinal one, where you ingest the spores, right? And you ingest that by handling the carcass then again, so the meat.
Yeah.
So when you ingest that, that one too has an incubation period, like I described, still from 2 to 7 days, but it can go depending on the amount of organisms you are exposed to.
Yeah.
It can go as long as 3 months before you start showing signs. And that actually presents a whole lot of other things. But we will get there. We are now talking about how we get it.
Yeah.
So you can ingest it. And then we have the inhalational, right, where you inhale, and that is the deadliest.
Okay.
Yeah. So let me describe it this way. The most common one is the cutaneous, followed by the gastrointestinal, and then the inhalational, right? And then when we take it from the danger, the virulence, based on the how you got infected, the inhalational is the most deadliest, followed by the gastrointestinal before the cutaneous. Yeah.
Okay, so you kept mentioning carcasses. Does it mean that in animals, when they get a do die eventually?
Okay, if left untreated.
If
left untreated, and it presents with sudden death, right? Sudden death. So there are other diseases that can cause that, like Clostridium, and these are mostly diseases that the bacteria causing it or the organism causing it produce toxins.
Okay.
So Clostridium is one of them, and all that, and it can produce toxins, and you can have sudden death. Striking, tender strike. It's one of the one of the differentials, right? So it's not always that when you see your animal dead, it doesn't always mean that it's anthrax when there's sudden death. So when they die, if they are left untreated or unvaccinated, let me put it that way, then they can get the disease.
Okay. So then who is at risk? I'm guessing people who handle animals, but apart from them, who else is at risk?
Okay, so any person who also works with animal products. Okay. I don't think here we deal with wool a lot, but elsewhere where they deal with wool, they can easily get the cutaneous one because they are exposed to and all that. Here, those who are at risk are the animal handlers. And the animal eaters. So basically, before an animal is slaughtered, there is what we call the ante-mortem and the post-mortem. So the ante-mortem is when the veterinary officer or the veterinary technician or the one in charge of the inspection of the meat would examine the animal to make sure that the animal is healthy before the slaughter.
Okay.
Yeah. And then after the slaughter, we have the post-mortem, right, where the vet again will examine the carcass, check some vital parts or organs to see if there are no diseases in this animal. In all this process, that animal is an outright dismissal or disposal of that meat. It cannot pass at meat inspection. And that reminds me of one of my classes in public health where the lecturer actually mentioned the different types of slaughters you have in Ghana. We have the Jewish slaughter. Okay. And then we also have the Muslim, how they slaughter their meat and all that. Now, these two types, you realize that in Leviticus, right, God told the Israelites in Leviticus chapter 11, verse 39 to 40, there, it talks about them not to touch the carcass of a dead animal, right? So the animal, there's even animals they're supposed to eat. Even the one they are supposed to eat, they are not supposed to even touch the carcass, right? And he said if you touch the carcass, you must go for washing. If you don't go for the washing, you are unclean for a day. So they don't eat dead animals. And in the veterinary practice, you don't eat dead animals, right? So it's strange if somebody is eating dead animal, right? So because you don't know what actually killed the animal.
Yeah.
So if you look at it in Exodus 2, when God said, if you follow the things I tell you, you won't get the disease of the other nations. So it's something we have to look at. Animal handlers, those who keep animals, and those who eat dead animals.
Yeah. But you mentioned antemortem, postmortem.
Yes.
But this is like in the abattoir setting, right?
Exactly.
So what about those killing the animals and eating animals at home?
Exactly. So it is not right for you to wake up one morning and kill your goat and kill your goat yourself and eat. Again, I would say it may be because of maybe lack of staff or lack of systems, right, that looks at all these things. Because you go elsewhere, you dare not kill your animal yourself and eat it in your house without an expert checking the animal, because there could be a whole lot of things. Sometimes it is not even, not passing the whole meat as whole for consumption. Sometimes some parts are taken out, right, because those parts are infected. And then all these things, an expert will have to look at it, right? So I would say it's not right. If you slaughter your goat, at least call the vet.
Okay.
Yeah.
But is there a law regulating that?
Yes, of course. So there are laws regulating slaughter slabs and things like that, the slaughter of animals, even the transportation of animals. There are laws on all that. Even the transportation. So from the time you pick the animal and slaughter the animal, even though the animal may not have any disease, if you don't pass through the right processes, the meat may not be as healthy as it will be if you pass through the right processes of slaughtering that animal. If the animal is so stressed out, some hormones will be released definitely, which actually hasten the decay of that meat. Right? So there are a whole lot of things that goes into that. So people should know that they are not supposed to kill the animals by themselves. And they have to call the vet for an ante-mortem and a post-mortem before they eat the animal. One time I received a call. And there's a practice in Ghana where people will not eat their animals unless they are sick.
I see.
Yes, because they are keeping the animal for a long time. Probably they want to sell the animals. I don't know. Sometimes you don't even sell them, but the animals will be in the house for a long time. And if one is sick, they said, "Oh, this animal is sick. Let's slaughter the animal," which is not right at all. At least eat a healthy animal, right? So if you want to slaughter, I was called and a goat wasn't well, almost dying, and they want to slaughter that goat. And I said, no, even if you will slaughter, we have to check. Why? What if it's poisoning? And you take the content in the intestines and you get poisoned. Then after checking it, there was a rubber stuck in the rumen, right? And that is why the animal was dying. So if you're able to find that, then probably that meat can be taken. What if it's something else? So you cannot do that. There should be post-mortem. There should be ante-mortem. There should be post-mortem. And I think if the people who ate the cow called the vet, they would have been saved from this.
So what are some of the symptoms or signs you'd see in someone who has anthrax, who has contracted it?
So again, it depends on how the person got it. Whether it is the cutaneous, whether it is the gastrointestinal, or whether it's inhalational. Some of the signs getting to the latter stages, which is actually the septicemic stage, are similar. That is when the infection or the bacteria is in the blood. The cutaneous one is what I described earlier, where there are skin lesions, right? swellings here and there and all that. I think I want to show some of the
Okay, sure, that's fine.
cutaneous. So this is an example. So this lesion here, this child has the cutaneous one, and that's how it shows. So it comes as a small pimple, black, and the edges will be swollen, and then getting to the later stage, it will turn into a sore like this. Yeah. And it can spread mostly on the face, on the hands, and things like that. So that's how the cutaneous, and like I mentioned, those who handle wool are likely to get the cutaneous, anthrax. The gastrointestinal ones presents with bloody diarrhea, vomiting, and things like that. And the end product is death. So there will be nausea, there will be vomiting, there will be bloody diarrhea and things. There will be diarrhea or bloody diarrhea at the later stages. The inhalational ones presents with severe respiratory disorders, right? And even sometimes hoarse voice. So the person cannot talk properly and all that. And then when it gets into the septicemic stage, you can have the bloody diarrhea. Now, the case fatality rate for that, I think I mentioned it, can go as high as 75 to 90%.
That's very high.
Yes, it's very, very high. So these are the things you will see when someone presents with anthrax. So the clinical signs can tell you how the person got the disease.
Okay. But is it contagious from person to person? Say the person has the bloody diarrhea, vomiting, and if I get into contact with those substances, can I get it from that?
Okay, so anthrax is not known to be contagious. Yeah. Transmission from human to human through body fluids is very, very rare. So you are not going to get it when someone, because it's inhalational, maybe you inhale droplets like COVID. No, it's not like that. Mainly handling the carcass of an infected animal. So the rare case will be when a person dies of anthrax and you handle the body. And you handle it so well that it gets to your skin or into your mouth.
So, but with the coughing, aren't you bringing up spores? If someone is infected in the cough, don't they produce spores as well?
Yeah, so it doesn't really present with the cough, but respiratory distress. Respiratory distress and all that. And the spores are not really shed from respiratory droplets or things like that. And that is why it is not contagious. Yeah, that's why it's not contagious.
So how would we pick up someone who has anthrax? Is there a test you do to confirm it?
Yeah. So the number of tests to get to, diagnose this anthrax, they can be microscopy, so blood smear. So normally in the animals, you can get some blood. When the animal with anthrax dies, you can also have blood oozing from the orifices. So the nose, the mouth. So basically the clinical signs can help you in the diagnosis of the disease. Now, you can take some blood from the orifices or the ear. You break the ear or wherever you can get a small blood, you can do a blood smear. And depending on the load, the bacterial load.
So this is for the animals?
Yeah, this is for the animals. This is for the animal. Depending on the bacterial load, you can find some of the bacteria in that blood smear. You are not to open that carcass for a postmortem. Yes. So you can have that. You can also have this modern tests, ELISA and PCR for the diagnosis. So in the human setting, confirmatory test will be from ELISA and PCR. The microscopy.
What samples are taken for that?
Blood.
Blood still,
You can get blood. You can also get nose swab. You can also get samples from the skin lesions. For this test to be done. So there are confirmatory tests for that.
So for someone who doesn't have skin lesions and you're just taking the blood samples, from my understanding, the septicemia or the infection in the blood comes on maybe later.
Yeah.
Right. So is it possible that you can miss picking up someone with anthrax because maybe it hasn't gotten into the blood?
Yeah,
yet?
into that stage. So with the ELISA is the immune response that we are looking at.
Okay.
So at that stage, if there's immune response to the introduced foreign body, you can still catch antibodies for that. Yeah, so you can still catch it with those tests. So those ones are advanced tests that are able to diagnose diseases at the very early stages. So ELISA and PCR should be able to confirm that.
Okay, okay. And so how are the dead animals disposed of?
Yeah, so like I said earlier, the carcass is not supposed to be opened.
Yeah.
And so that's why we have people dying when they eat the anthrax. When you are cooking the animal, if it's boiled at boiling point for at least 30 minutes, you should be able to kill the bacteria.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's from the handling of the carcass because it forms spores and you are touching it here and there.
Yeah.
So it is buried whole. Deep burial.
Okay.
Yeah, deep burial and it should be whole. If we have incineration, that can be done, but not too common. Yeah, so deep burial and disinfecting the area where the animal died.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So there are particular, the vet experts and those people with environmental health professionals would have to come and dispose of the carcass properly. So if you are not an expert, your animal died all of a sudden, you would have to call the vet to come and check, or any environmental health expert. If you are not reaching any of these people and you are doing it yourself, then you must wear your protective clothing. You must be careful. If blood is oozing from the nose or the mouth, you must not touch those things. You must wear gloves. You must be very sure those fluids are not touching your skin or your body, or they are not getting into your mouth. If you can't do that, get an expert. Even if you can, get an expert. If you are not able to get any, then you have to be careful in disposing that carcass.
Okay. So with the burial, how long after the animal is buried would you say it's like you've cleared the spores? Because as you mentioned, the spores stay in the soil for quite some time.
Yeah.
So maybe
for
someone
decades.
goes to dig up that same area. Is it likely they can get it?
Yeah. So that's why, again, the experts' advice come in on even where to do the burial. So dogs cannot dig it up, and that's why you are doing a very deep burial.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So sometimes the carcass is wrapped in a poly bag, right, before the burial.
Okay.
So that when the decay starts, the heat from the decomposing body
will kill the bacteria,
and the spores. So you need expert advice on all these things. You don't just throw them out there or do some shallow burial.
Okay. So how do we prevent it?
Yes.
Apart from eating the dead animals.
Yes. So the preventive measures, like I explained earlier when we started, I was talking about the concept of One Health, trying to cut off the transmission of diseases. So a healthy animal will be a healthy community if your animals are healthy. So there are vaccines available for animals. Even though there are vaccines for humans, I don't know if they are in Ghana. Maybe that would be your field.
I've not heard of it either.
Okay, you've not heard of it either. But there are vaccines in Ghana for animals.
Okay.
And so once a year, you should vaccinate your animal against anthrax.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So if these animals are vaccinated, then they will be immune to that and they won't get it. If the animals don't get it, you won't get it. So if you are able to keep our animals from getting the disease, then we are protecting ourselves as well.
Yeah.
So sometimes people think that, oh, these ones are animals. Why should I call a doctor for an animal? But I don't know, if you are treating your animal, you are treating yourself indirectly.
Yeah.
For instance, let's say helminths. If you have dogs in the house and you are not deworming them, chances are that they will have worms, they will shed the eggs, and your children or yourself will pick it up. So treating your animal actually is treating yourself. So in this, it's an indirect preventive measure. You vaccinate the animals, animals don't get it, humans don't get it. And again, if you are keeping animals, you should be careful. Isolate sick ones from the healthy ones. And after handling your sick animal, you wash your hands.
Okay.
Yeah, so you keep good personal hygiene, right? And then you don't just touch it. The fluid coming from an animal's nose, mouth, inner region, and you don't wash properly, you don't know what you are picking.
Yeah. So, for example, an animal you're suspecting has anthrax, you want to take them to the... Okay, would you take them to the vet, or you'd call the vet to come and see them?
No, I think it's advisable to call the vet. Actually, these are farm animals, and like I said earlier, unlike the veterinary practice where we have small animals, we have very nice hospitals and people bring their dogs. In the large animal medicine, it's mostly field work.
Okay.
So you have the doctor coming to your farm or the technician coming to your farm.
Okay.
So you can call the district vet. Every district has a vet office. So when you see an animal, your animal is sick, you have to reach out to your district or maybe municipal vet for them to come and check. They'll ask you a few questions, how you are seeing it, and then they'll come and check. And it will also help in reporting the cases because they've been under-reporting and all that.
Yeah. Okay. So if you happen to get it, what are the treatment options?
Okay. So in humans, when you get the anthrax, there are bacteria, because it's a bacterial infection, you'll be put on antibiotics and the symptoms too will be taken care of. Okay. So if you're having bloody diarrhea, I think that's your field. Again. So if you're having bloody diarrhea and those things, these are things they look at. So if they get it earlier, if they're able to diagnose it earlier, you will be able to, if you're having case fatality rate like cutaneous one, 5 to 20%, chances are that you come out of it. Okay. But there's the inhalational one that is a bit dangerous if it gets into the lungs. Yeah. So there are treatment options, but prognosis gets poorer when it is not diagnosed earlier. Okay. And that is quite fatal. Okay. Actually, in the US, in around 2001, there was bioterrorism with anthrax.
What does that mean? What is bioterrorism?
Okay, so using biological weapons. Okay. Right. So where people receive mail, and in those days when email wasn't that common, they send letters. They open the mail and they see powdered substance in it. Okay. And there's anthrax in that. Oh. So they inhale the spores. And there are reported cases, about 22 reported cases, and 5 died. Right. So it's been used in the past. Before 2001, it's been used the World War times. There were some countries that were using the spores of anthrax as a terrorist attack on their enemies. Okay. Right. And then, so in that's so that the respiratory one is quite dangerous. Yeah. So looking at 5 dying, it's something that has to be looked at.
Okay, but for the animals, what treatments would they get?
So mostly the animals, if the signs are seen earlier, or if it progresses, we recommend euthanasia.
What is that?
Okay, so euthanasia will be mercy killing.
Okay.
In a layman's term. Okay. Because you isolate them and they are going to infect the flock. And so you have to, and it's contagious in the animals. Contagious in the sense that if they die, you are looking at the public health implications and all that. So in order to prevent spread of the disease, you have to isolate them and probably euthanize one. But again, the vaccination is the best option. Yeah, the best option. So animals we may euthanize, and nobody's supposed to eat that.
Yeah. Okay. But what are some of the complications that could happen if it's left untreated?
In humans?
Yes.
Death.
Apart from death, death is like the final.
Yeah, it's a final stage.
Okay.
So the clinical signs, the bloody diarrhea and all the respiratory distress and things like that, I have not seen any reported complication after treatment.
Okay.
You see, there are some diseases that will leave an indelible mark even after treatment. I have not seen any case like that. If it's treated, then clinical signs will stop, but the end is death.
It's death.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for this.
It's a pleasure.
Yeah. We'll go for a quick commercial break now. When we get back, we'll continue with this conversation. Please stay tuned. But also, we'd like to hear from you, so please send in your questions and comments to our various social media platforms. Thank you.
Hope Channel Ghana, in partnership with East Ghana Conference and the SDA Hospital Koforidua, presents a Father's Day special.
I come into your homes to tell you about prostate cancer. Prostate cancer has to do with cancerous lesions appearing within your prostate gland at a certain age, usually above the ages of 40 years. Early screening is able to help us detect this condition and then also create a favorable outcome after the treatment. There is going to be a free screening being done at the Koforidua SDA Hospital. Prevention, they say, is better than cure. Come and get screened. Thank you.
Together, we can make a difference and ensure that no man has to suffer from this terrible disease alone. Hope Channel, changing lives.
I am an angel of hope.
I'm an angel of hope.
Ubreni o sɛ wode wo sika ɛbɛba bɛboa Hope Channel na waso yɛasene yɛtumi de nyame asɛm no akɔ ɔman ntwiasoɔ ne ne ntwarom nyinara wadaroma fa ahoma yi na fa wo sika fa so bi na nso fa bra na yɛnkɔka nyamesɛm ɛnyɛ akra ɛwuo nkwa star 928 star 34 star 104 hash anase 0249 193083. Hope Channel, yes, it's Sabrabo. Hope Channel, yeah, Gia Cranom.
Welcome back to the consulting room. Today we are discussing anthrax. You know, there's been a confirmed outbreak in some of the northern regions. So we are discussing it and we are getting to learn all about it so that we can protect ourselves. And Dr. Ahia is here giving us all the information on it. So it's in the northern region now. What is being done to prevent the spread or to protect the people there at the moment? Okay,
so again, there are people who are mandated to give this information, and every information I would give will be what has been released to the general public. So there was an emergency meeting on the 7th of this month involving all the key players in public health and disease prevention, the vets, the environmental health, doctors and all that, and the Ministry of Health. And so, as you speak now, there's a curfew on animal transportation, not humans.
Okay.
On animal transportation in areas where they have reported cases. About 4 districts in the northern region have reported cases. So animals cannot move from there to other parts so that the disease will not spread, because you don't know which animal is having it. Also, there's vaccination going on, right? And the vaccine is free. Yeah. So the northern region, you can reach out to the district offices and all that, and then you can get the experts to come and vaccinate your animals for you. So basically, that is what is being done, and there's no need to be panicking, because I think everything is under control. Yes, everything is under control as we speak now. Yeah.
But is there still the sale of animals there?
No, there's a curfew on all that. So you can't even move an animal from there to another part. And if any time you are going to do slaughter in these times, the vet will check very well to see.
Okay. So we've heard that it's in the north at the moment, but should we be worried in the southern regions?
Yeah. So in all the cases that have been reported in Ghana, most of them has been in the north. The research I've seen on the outbreaks, there have been a lot of outbreaks. I think 67 outbreaks from 2005 to 2016. That is when there was a research period on that, on anthrax. And all these outbreaks were in the northern region, and they never extend to the south. And I think it's because of how they handle it there, how the officers put the curfews and all that, and make sure that meat is not transported from there to the south. So I think the officers are doing a good job, but care must be taken so that nobody would eventually bring it down here as well.
Okay, so we have one question that we'll tackle before we move on. So the person says, good evening, doctor. Thank you for the education on anthrax disease. The question is, how do I know that this particular animal product that I'm buying is free from anthrax?
I think that's a very, very important question. You will not be able to tell by seeing the meat that this meat is from anthrax, that it's having a disease or not. What you would actually have to do is to buy from a well-known source. You should be very sure of the source of meat you are buying. A place like the Accra Abattoir. Right? You will realize that how they do, I was there one time, and how they do their things, you realize that they have the systems in place. There's the ante-mortem, there's the post-mortem and all that. So you should be very sure. But if you are buying it from a slaughter slab somewhere where there's no vet there, and you are not sure whether that meat has been checked by experts, you will not be able to tell. So if you are buying meat outside, you should be sure of the source.
But are there vets stationed at various abattoirs?
Oh yes, of course, So every abattoir, there's even if the veterinary officer is not there, there is a trained technician who is doing the inspection. So all the abattoirs will have people who are doing the inspection. I don't know about the slaughter slabs, but those who are having the license or authority from the Vet Council to do that would also have. So you should be sure that the meat product you are buying has been checked by the vet. But you yourself, you will not be able to see. You will not be able to see.
So anthrax is zoonotic. Are there other zoonotic diseases that are with us?
Exactly. There are a lot of zoonotic diseases, and there are diseases that are not zoonotic, but because of our interaction with animals, when they jump from the animals to humans, because they are also trying to survive, they mutate and they start causing diseases.
Okay.
And HIV is an example.
Okay.
Yes. So it's from apes, the simian virus. Yeah. So it wasn't HIV in them. And it's a normal flora in them. They live with it. They are okay with it.
Okay.
But when they jumped from those animals to humans, and they became HIV and they are causing trouble. So that's what I said earlier. Healthy animals are healthy human beings. Yes. So there are a lot. There's rabies. So rabies is also a danger. So if you are not vaccinating your dog. So now that anthrax is on the rise, everybody is talking about anthrax. But there are a number of zoonotic diseases that kill people, even worms. The worms people get from their dogs also kill them. And bacterial diseases, salmonellosis, E. coli. we get all these things from animals and animal products. I don't want to spoil people's businesses, but Burkina. So if you are buying Burkina and the meat, the milk use is not well pasteurized, you are likely to even get tuberculosis from all those things. So it's real. We can get diseases from animals. And so we have to be careful our handling of the animals. And if we are keeping them, we must keep them well. You can always call the vet to check out on your animal at least every 3 months.
Yeah.
So you go for check. I know a lot of people don't come for checkup unless they are sick.
Yes.
But your animal will not be able to tell you that he's sick. It's only the expert who can tell. Sometimes you see that the animal is not eating and they are strong. So by the time you see they are not well, it means it's gone far. And they shed a lot of bacteria. So you have a dog, the dog is having diarrhea, and you are living with the dog in the house. You don't know what the dog is shedding into the environment, and you are not calling anybody. Your children are playing around. They can pick up bacterial infection. Yeah. And there can be some species around that may jump to other species and cause problems. So I think these are real things we have to look at. There are a lot more zoonotic diseases that we have to look at, and because of that, we must keep our animals well.
In line with keeping the animals well, apart from waiting till they are sick and calling in the vet, say the farm animals, are there like regular intervals in which you should call in the vet to like just check on them?
Exactly. So we have things we call cultural practices, like the periodic things you do for your farm animals. So you deworm them periodically. Yeah, some cultural practices may include castration and all that. But you have to let an expert visit your farm once in a while. There are things they can even teach you to prevent diseases from getting into your farm, like some biosecurity measures, right? Yeah, where to go to, how to keep them. If they are, if you are doing intensive or semi-intensive, how to make sure that diseases don't come from other farms to your farm. Right. So these are very, very important things for farmers out there. They have to take advantage of veterinary services. But some farmers decide to be vets by themselves.
Is it because it's expensive?
Well, it depends. It depends on who. It depends. It depends. You can always employ the services of the government veterinary employees, the public servants. That will not be expensive. Yeah, but calling a private practitioner like me,
like you.
So you can always, most farm animals, you have to call in the district to check up on your farm. And if you see anything abnormal, you have to call in the vets to check.
Right. Thank you so much. This has been very, very interesting. I've learned a lot. Unfortunately, we are running out of time. So I'll take your final words and then we'll just wrap up.
Yeah, so my final word is on, some conspiracy theories that goes on when there's an outbreak of a disease. And I think the services are worried about it, that people don't present what is actually going on under the grounds. They just blow it out of proportion, causing panic attacks and all that. People will have to keep calm. The information from the Ghana Health Service and the Veterinary Service Directorate is the accurate ones that have to go on, and then not the ones we always see on social media, causing problems here and there. Yeah, and then we should have to keep our animals well. I'll say it again. Because you keep your animal well, you are doing God's duty, because He created us to take care of them. So if your animal is sick, you are being cruel to the animal, you are harming your own self. And God will not bless you for that. So that's what I'll have to say.
Okay.
Yes, on this one.
Thank you so much again. And to our viewers, we've learned a lot today. Let's remember, a healthy animal is a healthy environment. So let's remember to take care of our animals as well. And let's remember that Hope Channel Ghana, in partnership with the East Ghana Conference and the SDA Hospital Koforidua, is having a Father's Day special on the 18th of June from 9 a.m. All men within the Koforidua municipality are invited to a free prostate cancer screening, and this is happening at the SDA Hospital in Koforidua. And to register for this screening, you can send in your details to 0246 872083. And together we can make a difference and ensure that no man has to suffer from prostate cancer. Let's keep this in mind and register. Thank you so much for joining us, and have a good night.